We got Norm Casse in this one as well. He's got codename Kate, who comes in off back-to-back wins. One might think with a recently inducted Hall of Fame father following in his footsteps after growing up in the sport would be a logical progression. But for Norm Casse, that was not the case at all. In fact, horse racing wasn't even on Norm's radar until one horse for him changed everything. Norm talks about that decision to tell his father about when he knew he wanted to become a trainer.
I grew up resenting horse racing a little bit. My dad and my mother divorced when my brother and I were very young, and I didn't get to see Dad a lot. And when I did go to see Dad during the summers, we'd have to go to the races in the barn all day. And then being a little kid, there was a lot of resentment there. I didn't really have a direction early on in my life. I loved sports. I loved baseball. I actually played a year of college baseball. But I mean, at some point you realize, you know, you're 5'6", you're 5'7", you're slow as hell, you have a terrible arm. You're not going to be a Major League Baseball player. Growing up in Louisville, I fell in love with horse racing on my own.
The unbeaten colt, Smarty Jones, is drawing away to win the Derby.
In the year that Smarty Jones won, I caught the bug really, really bad and decided that's what I wanted to do. I remember the conversation really well because it took a long time to have it. Probably a couple years to tell Dad I knew I wanted to be a trainer. I knew I wanted to follow in his footsteps, but I wasn't brave enough to tell him that yet. I was embarrassed to admit it for whatever reason, and it was an emotional thing to tell him, and I don't know why, because as soon as I did tell him, he was like, well, then let's do it. Let's make you the best that you can possibly be, and we hit the ground running.
But Tepin has a 5-length margin and deep stretch. It is Tepin.
Tepin in front. Tepin, Colorado wins the effort near the line. Tepin comes down low. Wins for America around the quicker.
Tepin in front. They have a furlong to run, and she has turned them away. And she is going to make this her own personal playground, Tepin.
I just give credit to Tepin for a lot of things. Tepin is definitely the reason I went on my own, because she gave me that confidence. You know, when I left to go on my own, there was no handouts. I got my own clients. At the time, I was a little upset about that, but in hindsight, that was the right thing to do, because now everything has been that much more rewarding.
Hard Legacy still going strong. Hard Legacy goes coast to coast.
To win my first graded stake at Churchill Downs, we did it for Mary Lou Whitney while Mary Lou was still with us. And to win a race named after a horse that Mary Lou bred, the Whitney's bred regret. You know, it's kind of fairy tale, and it was a good moment.
It is Pretty Birdie, jockey Louis Saez, wearing the colors of the Mary Lou Whitney stables. Pretty Birdie takes the Schuylerville.
Being associated with Mary Lou Whitney and her husband John, who have been so great for the sport and so great for the town of Saratoga, I knew there was a lot of pressure riding on Pretty Birdie and me, and she delivered. I've been a part of a lot of big races, won a lot of big races when I worked for my father, but that was the biggest moment of my life in racing so far. There's two simple goals. I would like to be the guy in Kentucky, you know, at that very top tier at Churchill and Kingland. That would be one of my main goals, but the only goal is to win the Kentucky Derby.